Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Bayou Bets for Monday, January the 23rd. Zach Ewing here with you, along with Jim Derry. We are into the Final Four in the NFL, and we're here to talk about it. Conference championship games coming up in just 6 days. We'll recap this past weekend's divisional games and look forward to those games. Got a couple of other things to talk about as well. Welcome your questions and comments throughout. And as always, subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel so you never miss a show. We get to your comments live. We'd love it too. If you like the content, hit that like button and share it with your buddies. So with that said, Jim, I have to say those games this weekend just slightly underwhelming. Like we didn't get that great finish in any of them.
I couldn't agree more. It was, I always talk about how this is my favorite weekend of the year, and it is. But there was nothing that maybe 49ers, Cowboys, I guess if you save the best for last. But I don't think in any of the others did you feel like the team that won wasn't going to win.
And 49ers, Cowboys, to me, it was a close game. It was not a well-played game. It was not a well-coached game. It was two teams kind of slogging it out. I mean, we're not going to have the fourth down argument every day, but both these teams were punting from inside the 40. Like it was like they were both afraid to make the mistake that lost the game. And I guess it worked for the 49ers. I don't, we can talk about Dallas, but
man, I don't know that I agree. I don't necessarily think it was poorly coached at all. I think it was coached the way that these teams went into the game figuring that they would have it. And then when it got into there, they just played the way they felt the game was supposed to be played at that point in time. I think there were other games that were, other games that were poorly coached more than this one. I thought Buffalo was extremely poorly coached. I don't agree with you when it comes to a lot of your fourth down stuff, but I didn't understand Buffalo punting. I know they were at their own 20. They were down 3 scores with 10 minutes left, and the
Giants did the same thing. When it was like 28-7. Like, you gotta go for it. What are you doing?
Okay, I know 9 times out of 10, you and I can disagree on these things, but I was thinking it was a no-brainer, especially for the Bills. I mean, you really couldn't stop Cincinnati. I mean, Giants, okay, they're almost giving up. I mean, so that's a little bit different, I guess, in a small way, but I didn't understand the Bills punting at all. You down 3 scores. I really think it was under 10 minutes. I think it was like 9 minutes left. That made no sense to punt there. You lose, the game's over. You punt, the game's over. So, I mean, either way, the game's over. You just couldn't stop Cincinnati. But look, McCarthy's getting a lot of grief this morning, but what do you want him to do? I mean, he's playing a defensive battle, especially after he loses Tony Pollard. They've got to play a different kind of game. You got to rely on your defense and field position. And honestly, I thought it worked for the most part. They had a chance, and Dak just sucked. I mean, that's the reason why Dallas lost. Dak stunk.
Yeah, he did. And I mean, obviously, had he played as well as he did Monday in Tampa, they probably win the game or at least have a chance at the end. I mean, to me, and again, this is where you and I are going to disagree, 4th and 5 from your opponent's 40 should almost automatically be go for it. And the numbers back that up. I mean, the numbers back that up.
Look, what numbers are you using? Some numbers by some guy named Bob Bott or whatever it was.
That's the bot that uses the New York Times formula that has used tens of thousands of past NFL games.
Who cares? To me, if you want to play those cards, and I thought about this, and I went back, and I got to be honest, I came home and I read all the texts that I'd missed from before, and I'm like, you know what? Let me go back and watch. And I'm being dead serious. Let me watch this with an open mind. Dak does stink, by the way. Let me watch this with an open mind, and I'm not going to go into the show tomorrow saying I think that you're wrong just to say that I think you're wrong. So I went back and I watched it with an open mind, and I watched the entire series. I actually watched the entire second half all over again, which is why I didn't get enough sleep last night. But at that point in time, I thought that was the right move to punt. You're playing a field position game. At the time, it was 9-9. Okay, you play the field position game. You let your defense do that. Now, the defense didn't do that thing because the 49ers went down the field and scored a touchdown. But that's hindsight's 20/20. But I don't care about analytics cards. I don't care about bots. I don't care about New York Times simulations. If you want to play that kind of game, Go play Xbox. Don't even play players will never get a chance to get hurt if you just play this game on Xbox and Madden. I don't understand these analytics, and I'm not being a jerk and being, just going against you because of what you say. I think the analytics cards are things that get coaches fired these days. Look at the coaches that are still in this game, other than Sirianni. I mean, you don't have coaches that play that kind of game. You just don't.
No, well, that's what groupthink gets you, though, Jim. I mean, that you get
groupthink
you're
gets
right.
you in the Super Bowl. I mean,
you're right. You get fired when you use the analytics card and it doesn't work because you did something that no one else is doing and it didn't work. For? And now everyone said, "What the hell are you doing?" And then it works for Doug Peterson. And then you look at it worked for Nick Sirianni. And then if you screw up like Mike McCarthy screwed up by not being aggressive enough.
I don't think he screwed up.
How many times did the Cowboys get across midfield in that game? Maybe 5 times, and 2 of them they decided to give the ball away. You only have so many chances in that field position.
They scored 2 field goals and a touchdown. So I mean,
they had the ball 2 other times across the 50, and are willingly giving up the chance to get points there. I don't
automatically go for it. I mean, look, you should. I think what the people that think like you're thinking should do is start a league where you are not allowed to kick field goals or punts. You have to go for it every 4th down. And it sounds like a really stupid league that's played from March to June. And y'all can have fun with that and do all. This is the National Football League, buddy. They don't play football like that for a reason, because it doesn't work. In the long run, it doesn't work. You have to use it. I'm not saying you should never go for it on 4th and 5 at the 40. If the game were 30-24 and you can't stop the other team and you're giving up a possession, then yeah, I think you probably should go for it. But 4th and 5, I don't care if the odds are 60-40. You don't go for it there because of what the repercussions are if you don't get it. Again, hindsight's 20/20. The Niners scored their only touchdown of the game on that drive. So it's hard to use that drive in particular because you can look back and say, see, they should have gone for it, or see, they shouldn't have punted. But, the other one we talked about, you were talking about punting when they punted from the 38 or whatever earlier. Well, what happened when they punted? They pinned San Francisco back. I mean, at the 8-yard line. And actually, it pinned them back both times. The point is, you have to go by the feel of a game, and that's what coaches, I think, do. Sometimes, even if you're saying, okay, we should use analytics, and some teams I think actually have an analytics person on staff and go by these things. That's fine and dandy. But if you're a coach and you say, you know what, it doesn't feel right to punt here. It's a 9-9 game. It's the 3rd quarter. We feel like if we pin them back, we're going to get the ball back at midfield. And I think that's what they were doing there. I don't have any problems with look, I'm not saying McCarthy's a good coach. I mean, I think Dallas is the most underwhelming team for the talent they have in the National Football League. But at that point in time, again, I think people aren't talking enough about what happened when Tony Pollard went out of that game. They had no running game whatsoever. Now you're really counting on Dak. I think your defense pins him back. Maher was kicking the field goals. It was a 9-9 game. You hope you win the game 12-9 or 15-12.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is not what this show is supposed to be about, so I'll just say one more thing. And the cards or the bots or the whatever, the analytics, they have, you don't seem to grasp this, but they actually have the risk ingrained in them also. If you don't get it, here's the game situation, and your chance of winning obviously has gone down. Here's the percentage chance that you get it. Here's what happens if you get it. Here's what happens if you don't get it. And now let's crunch all those numbers, which a human being cannot do in real time, which is why you have the cards, you have the computers. So yes, it can, based on tens of thousands of simulations.
It can give you percentages. Last card coach in the
Super Bowl was Doug Peterson.
Here's the thing, though, this will be my last thing on it as well. Here's my thing that I've always said. If a card says 70% you make it, 30% you don't. Okay. And that's not what this card said. I think it was more like 65-35, right? Right?
Something like that. Yeah. I don't have it in front of me, but yeah.
Okay. So here's the point. You can figure out what's going to happen, but that doesn't tell you what the feel of a computer can't tell you what the feel of that game is and what a coach thinks is for the best for his team at that time. A card if it's the same as if, let's say you're playing poker and, you flop a set on, and somebody comes out betting big who's conservative and is betting big. And you feel like they either have a bigger set or they flopped the flush or whatever. I mean, and you feel like you're beat. There are been times when I'm playing poker and I fold a hand that I should never fold. I mean, the odds would say that I've got a 90% chance to win by what I'm looking at, but I've folded before. And it's because it's the feel of a computer can't tell me what the feel of that game is and for what the time of that game is and what that particular coach thinks or doesn't think at that time. You just can't. I don't care what numbers tell me.
That is fair. I mean, I will allow that is the case sometimes. The problem is we have an epidemic of NFL coaches being way too conservative. They by large, all of them lean too far that way. So we're brought to you by Caesar Sportsbook. Want to get that out of the way. LSUposter.com will get you 3 free LSU posters. If you're a new Caesars user and you download the app, make a deposit and a minimum of a $10 bet on anything you want. Can be football, can be basketball, can be golf, could be tennis, anything. $10 minimum bet. Put in your address. We'll send you 3 free LSU championship posters. So the teams that we do have left, we've talked enough about the Cowboys and the teams we don't have left. You have the Kansas City Chiefs, Jim, with a gimpy Patrick Mahomes, high ankle sprain. He says he's going to play. I don't see how he's going to be 100%. You have the Eagles, which we saw earlier. Our buddy Devin Jackson's here, living in Philly now. How about them Eagles? They looked fantastic and are now the favorites to win the Super Bowl. We have everybody's second favorite team around here, the Cincinnati Bengals, as we see Terry says Bengals play the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and I think Joe Burrow is the future Tom Brady. Don't put that on Joe Burrow. And then we have the 49ers, who don't have the quarterback pedigree of the other three, but certainly have maybe the most well-rounded team.
By the way, I think Joe Burrow is the future Joe Montana. He's a completely different quarterback than Tom Brady. So everybody wants to compare Tom Brady because they think Tom Brady's the GOAT. That's a whole different argument for another day. I think the NFC in particular, and thank you, Horace. I know there's more than one rational person out there. I think the NFC matchup, and we kind of talked a little bit about it before we started the show, is just incredibly intriguing. It's so hard to judge Philadelphia the same way it was hard to judge Dallas going into this week because they played a team that didn't even belong in the playoffs.
And played their best game of the year. Yeah, right. I mean, basically.
It is hard to judge Philadelphia over a beaten a division opponent they know so well and probably certainly didn't deserve to be playing with that group. They were the worst team of the 8 by far. I think if the Giants played the Jags, they'd lose. Maybe they did play. Did they play already? I think they did play this year. And I think
the Giants actually won that game, but it was early. Yeah, before the Jags were playing well.
Yeah, I think that this NFC game is going to be super interesting. The line jumped from 1 to 2.5 right off the bat because if they would have played this game 2 weeks ago, even when Jalen Hurts, after he played that week 18 game, I think that San Francisco either would have been favored or it would have been a pick'em game, even in Philadelphia. So I'm going to have a tough time dissecting this one. I know what I want to happen, so I'm trying not to let what I want to happen judge what I think is going to happen. I've been down on Philadelphia all year long, but they looked super, super good the other day. But this is going to be the one that I really, really want to watch. I know everybody around here wants to watch Burrow and hopes Burrow wins, and I hope Burrow wins too because I got more money on the Bengals' future. We could talk about that later if you want, but I just don't know what to make of this Niners-Eagles game. I don't know if the Eagles are going to be able to run the ball on the Niners like they were able to run in the Giants, but at the same time, Brock Purdy showed a couple little cracks this weekend. He didn't turn the ball over, which is great, but I'm not sure the Niners' offense is going to be up to snuff either. So it's going to be a tough analysis.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think if this line had come out a week ago, if this had been the matchup last week, it would have been a pick 'em. But two things happened. Number one, the Eagles look great, and Jalen Hurts proved that he's healthy.
Yeah.
And number two,
mostly healthy.
I mean, healthy enough, right? Nobody's 100% at this time of year, but
right.
the 49ers didn't look as good as they had. Like you said, Purdy showed a couple of cracks. Christian McCaffrey has a calf issue. He says he's fine, but they were using him sparingly at the end of that game. I mean, Elijah Mitchell was getting the bulk of the carries. In fact, ran out of bounds and gave Dallas that last chance. If he doesn't run out of bounds, Dallas has 5 seconds left instead of 45 seconds left in that last drive. They acted like they had. I don't. That's that's a whole other story. But yeah, it's difficult to handicap this one because McCaffrey's got to be healthy. And I really agree with what Devin said. Trenches are going to determine the game.
Right, and the best team in the trenches thus far in the NFL has clearly been San Francisco throughout the year. I know how good
Philly's right there, though, aren't
Philly's
they?
offensive line is really, really good, but I think San Francisco's defensive front has been they're number one for a reason. They're number one because they've been able to get to the quarterback. I don't know if Hurts is going to be able to do Hurts things in this game. I'm just not sure yet.
It's
I'm
going to be
tough
a good
boat. Look,
I mean,
I still in the knockout pool. Okay. And I got a choice to make this week. It's going to be, I either have to pick Philly, I can't pick KC, and I wouldn't anyway. So who do I pick? I mean, I got to pick somebody. It's a tough call, man. It's a really tough call. A lot riding on that one for sure. More riding on that than, look, I have some really nice future possibilities, especially with Cincinnati and San Francisco. But, man, knockout, there's more riding on that, and I don't know what to pick.
Yeah, it's a tough one for sure. And honestly, this is kind of what you get, right, when you have the favorites all win. I know the Bengals weren't favored, but that was a weird. I mean, the Bills just peaked like around Halloween.
Was easy. That teaser we'll play this week, and we'll get to our best bets later that we won on. That was the easiest teaser of the year. I mean, you look, even though Kansas City needed the teaser to cover, it would not have hit if you just did it as a parlay. But at no point, even when Mahomes was hurt, at no point did I think that Kansas City was not going to cover the teaser and win that game.
No, and really, my best bet was Kansas City -8.5, and
which would have been in gold had Mahomes not.
Really should have covered that even with the Mahomes injury, and yet that was a tough one. That happens. That's fine.
Yeah, the weird backdoor field goal.
My point is, what we're left with is
that pick'em now?
Terrific matchups. It is a pick'em right now at Caesars. Yeah. I've still seen it as Chiefs -1 in other places.
I'm glad I got that teaser in earlier then.
Yeah, this line has been going down, down, down. It started out, I think, Chiefs -2.5, even -3 in some places, and that quickly got bet down. I mean, look, Patrick Mahomes is going to play. Patrick Mahomes is going to get every shot that they could. My colleague Raina Kemp used to call it that Mariah needs to sing medicine. They'll give him whatever he needs to feel as good as he can on that ankle for 3 hours. You can't replace the mobility, though, right? Like, that thing is still going to be stiff as hell. And Mahomes is not a bad pocket passer, but if you make him a pocket passer, you've taken away his greatest strengths.
And Mark posted that Bengals 2.5. That was last night, my friend. They're no longer 2.5.
Yeah, you can't get that number anymore.
Sharps are pounding the Bengals, which also scares the ever-loving hell out of me if you like Cincinnati. I mean, they are pounding the Bengals, and big difference. So I don't know. I got a teaser in at earlier. I think it was this morning when I bet it. Did a 6.5 point teaser. I did Bengals at +8.5, 7.5, and I did San Francisco at +9.
So. I just checked this again, and now Cincinnati is favored by 1 in that game. So that line has already jumped the fence.
Somebody knows something.
It's a high ankle sprain. We saw Ryan Tannehill. He missed a couple of weeks and then tried to come back. A high ankle sprain's a multi-week injury.
Well, it killed Mike Thomas for a year and a half.
You can't, like, this joking. Is not, we're talking about something that affects your leg all the way up almost to the knee. And so you can't just, like, he's going to be thrown off the front foot. He's not going to be able to run like he usually is. I said it during the game, and a couple people on Twitter got angry with me. The Chiefs would have been better off with Chad Henne in that game than a 60% Patrick Mahomes, or actually probably more like a 40% Patrick Mahomes. And he gutted it out and got a touchdown. The Bengals defense better than the Jaguars. They're going to have to do it more often. I just don't see it. I know it's a week later.
I don't either, but it's going to be hard to just jump on the Bengals bandwagon because everybody, I mean, Sharps, Mabels, everybody's going to be betting Cincinnati this week. And You know what? I want no part of them. Not when it comes to just betting the line straight. Like I said, if I wouldn't have bet the teaser when I would have bet it, I'd have had to stay away completely. And so they're not going to be in my best bets at all this week. I can tell you that right now.
Imagine telling someone even a week ago that you could get the Chiefs as home underdogs in the AFC Championship game.
Pretty karma, though, in a way, isn't it? I mean, if you think about it, this whole talk, Cincinnati got screwed more than any other team in the NFL when it came. Look, God bless him, Damar Hamlin. I'm so thankful that he's doing much better. But the NFL was such in a rush to make sure that Kansas City and Buffalo played on a neutral site when Cincinnati still had a chance at the time to clinch home field. Had they won the Buffalo game and won their last game, Kansas City lost, and Kansas City had no pressure on them. So it was a lot easier to win. I'm not saying they would have lost, but I mean, Cincinnati, first of all, should have been playing that game at home anyway yesterday. I don't know.
Or at least a neutral site, right? Like, I mean, that should have at least been another coin flip game or a neutral site.
Why not Cincinnati play on a neutral site? I mean, Cincinnati beat Kansas City, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. They did. Well, now with Kansas City, it's a little bit different because Kansas City, I think, was a game and a half clear of the Bengals. So even if the Bengals won that suspended game, Kansas City would have had a better record. So that part of it is fine. But it's just interesting with Mahomes and what you see here. These odds are constantly shifting. ESPN had a stat, by the way. This is the first time in 45 years, which is all they have on record, that the Super Bowl favorite heading into Conference Championship weekend is at longer odds than 2-1. You have 4 teams between 260 and 320 here because it's flip a coin at this point.
It's truly, I mean, you could throw 4 teams in a hat, and I really think they all have about the same shot. I think these odds are pretty close. I don't think there's any value here whatsoever. If you haven't made a future bet, look, the way that I did it with Kansas City is the same way that I would do it with one of these teams. I was sure that Kansas City was going to be the AFC Championship game. I didn't think you would be able to get him at plus 160 in the championship game. I didn't know Mahomes was going to get hurt. You probably still won't get him at plus 160. But that's why I bet Kansas City to win the AFC Championship last week. Not necessarily because I thought they were going to win, but because I was getting value. I was certain they were going to the AFC Championship game. So to get him at plus 160 in this game is basically like getting him at plus 4 or plus 3 or plus 3.5, plus 4, somewhere along those lines. And
by
the way, I have Cincinnati to win the AFC too at plus 9.
Yeah, and when you've got those futures still alive at this point, you can really play some hedging games. The one thing I wanted to add to this AFC game where I see a little bit of value remaining and the numbers tick down just a half a point. I like the under a lot in this game. It was 47.5. It's now 47.
But they're talking snow too.
Yeah, and that honestly, like that doesn't always, because defenders can slip too, and they don't know where they're going, where offensive players do, and so sometimes that can actually help an offense. But look, Kansas City without Tyreek Hill, even with a healthy Patrick Mahomes, goes on these long touchdown drives. They don't go on. They're not a quick strike.
That's the kind of back Isaiah Pacheco is. Yeah.
7-minute drives, and the Bengals do the same thing. Quite frankly, where they have one play over 20 yards yesterday. Their offense looked great, but it was just sort of 8 yards here, 15 yards there, then 4 yards, then 3 yards, then 10 yards, and they're taking up the whole play clock. If you even get teams settling for field goals a couple of times and throw in the fact that Mahomes may be hurt and the Chiefs may go with a more conservative game plan, I don't see, barring like some turnovers or defensive scores or something like that, 47 is too high here. To me, that's where the value is at this point.
I like that, and I know that I was listening to some sharps this morning, and they're talking about under in San Fran and Philly just because they know the defense. I kind of got a feeling Frisco's going to be a little bit more high scoring than people think. So I'm with you. Right. I kind of like maybe a little bit of a parlay, maybe the under in the Cincinnati game and the over in the Niners game.
Or teaser possibility. If you like one side on a teaser,
you could
tease this up to 53 and bet the under. I mean, I just, unless you're talking an overtime situation or a couple of defensive scores, like to me, this is going to be a slogfest. And people see Bengals and Chiefs and their eyes light up, Mahomes versus Burrow.
Yeah.
Those offenses aren't really like that.
I agree with you. They both are long, especially, and we saw what happened when Chad Henne came in for Mahomes. They went on a long, sustained drive. And I got to be honest, what's going to happen if Mahomes goes in and he's completely ineffective and the Bengals go up 10-0? Are they going to make a switch? Does Andy Reid have the cojones to make that switch and tell Mahomes you're out of this game? I don't know. But you're right.
I think Mahomes would have to pull himself out. I really do.
I think you
and
might
he's
be
not
right
going
on
to.
that. No, he's not going to.
Yeah, but you're right. When the Chiefs are in trouble, and they did this on the Henny drive, and they did it on the drive Mahomes scored on when he had the bad ankle, if they get in trouble, they run the ball or they dump it off to Kelsey for a 6-yard gain. And that's what they do, because you can't guard Kelsey when he sits down like that.
Right.
You can tackle him when he catches it, but you're going to give him 6 yards. And so that's just what they keep doing. But what that means is, yeah, they're moving the ball, but it takes them 8 minutes to score a touchdown.
And Joe Burrow too, Zach. I think if you go back and watch that game again, the game plan, we talked about the offensive line all week. Okay. They knew that Burrow wasn't going to have time to sit back there and la-di-da and let me scan the field. It was snap, 1, 2, boom. I mean, and Joe Burrow's great at it. And that's why their offensive line woes didn't matter as much, because that's what they did. And they're going to do it again. They're going to do that again this week. Although I'm not sure they have to as much, but Spagnuolo loves to blitz. He loves to get those people in there, and we'll see if Burrow can do it again. I think it's going to be a really good game, and I can tell you right now, even if Mahomes is limited, I'm not counting the Chiefs out. You can if you want to, but they're still the Chiefs for a reason. And trust me, if Andy Reid's going to know what he's got going in this game. If anyone can game plan to win this game for a limited Patrick Mahomes or Chad Henne, it's Andy Reid. And the difference in coaching in this game is astronomical. So don't forget about that part of it.
Yeah, it's intriguing, and the Mahomes injury just adds another element to it. One more thing we talk about with the NFL, Super Bowl MVP odds have dropped at Caesar. So if you like one of these guys, if you like one of the teams, you obviously get a little bit better odds on betting their quarterback to win the MVP with Hurts, Burrow, Mahomes. Now with the 49ers, it's the one team where I don't think Purdy is a heavy favorite to be the MVP if the 49ers win the Super Bowl. I got my eye on McCaffrey at 15-1. Could certainly see that if you like the Niners to go all the way.
You don't like Lil Brocky?
That's an inside joke if I ever heard.
All right. Look, you could bet on, if you think the Niners are going to win the title, which I actually think they're the best team in the playoffs still. I said it before. I'm not going to change my mind now because they had kind of an off week. I thought the Dallas defense was absolutely outstanding. I thought Dan Quinn's game plan was incredible. Look, he's fighting for an NFL job right now, for an NFL head coaching job, and I think he's going to get it. But his game plan was incredible yesterday. Of all the defensive game plans, I know they didn't win, but his was the best, in my opinion. So if you like the Niners to win, you can go put a little something on Purdy, McCaffrey, and Debo at those odds. And if any of them hit, one of those three guys, unless something, or Kittle, I guess maybe. I can't imagine a tight end winning the MVP, but one of those three guys is probably going to win the MVP if the Niners win the Super Bowl. And you're getting good odds to bet all three of them over the plus 320 something, 325 or whatever is to win it. There's no value on betting a future right now.
You say that, but if you had to pick an MVP for Chiefs Jaguars yesterday, it would have been Travis Kelce, I think, hands down.
I don't disagree with you, but that's
weird game.
That's not something that's normally going to happen. And if you want to go put hey, look, if Kelce catches 15 catches in the Super Bowl and they win, you probably would get it. But we saw last year, Zach, that Aaron Donald deserved to be the MVP, and they gave it to Cooper Kupp. Why? Because they snubbed Cooper Kupp in the regular season MVP where he should have won it, and so they kind of gave it to him there. What a mess. So who knows?
Yeah, I'm still mad about that because I had a 50-1 live ticket on Aaron Donald.
I had a nice ticket on him too, and so did Devin, I believe.
Yeah, and I will say this though: if you think if the Eagles are your team, what we Super Bowl odds they were plus 260. What's the chance the Eagles win the Super Bowl and Jalen Hurts is not your MVP? Like
20-1.
I mean, maybe he gets hurt,
maybe
or something.
25-1.
But take Hurts at plus 350.
Yeah, they're
in the
going
Super
to,
Bowl because
even if it's anywhere in the ballpark, they're going to give it to Jalen Hurts. The only way they wouldn't give it to Jalen Hurts is if like A.J. Brown caught 11 passes for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns or something along
or
those
if Hurts
lines.
got injured. I mean, that would be the
Or if
only
Hurts
other
got
way.
hurt.
Yeah.
Or if Hurts got hurt.
Yeah,
Hurts
that
hurt.
would hurt.
Yeah, that would hurt.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think if you like the Eagles, you're getting better value there on the Jalen Hurts. So
did Terry Fields just say that Patrick is overrated? Come on,
he's really good, but
Patrick Mahomes is not overrated. He's better with one leg than about 29 other quarterbacks.
The only thing is, I feel like he's hurt by that injury more than some quarterbacks would be because his strength is his improvisation, right? And you kind of taken that away when he doesn't have the mobility and he can't twirl around in the pocket and buy himself time and run and shovel. Like now he can make those off-platform throws from his front foot, and think we saw that. I mean, he is good at that.
Oh.
So
you can love Joe Burrow all you want, and I'm a huge Joe Burrow fan, but when healthy, it's not close. Patrick Mahomes is number 1, and there is no 2, 3, and 4. The next one's like number 5. Patrick Mahomes is clearly the best player in football.
I will say the guy who everyone thought was his challenger, Josh Allen.
Yeah.
The Bills got some major question marks,
Burrow's
man.
better than Josh Allen.
Josh Allen, he's so inconsistent. He shows these flat. He had one great throw yesterday, I think, to Gabe Davis, where I mean he just lasered it in between 2 defenders, and you see why everybody loves the guy. And then the rest of the game, he was crap. I mean, he just couldn't hit. He was missing open receivers. He was not making reads.
Crickets from the 24-year-old yesterday, by the way.
All right, best bets. I feel hard done by because not only the Chiefs Jaguars thing didn't work, but I had the Zay Jones prop bet at like plus 420 over 69.5 yards, which he had 85 yards, and he had a couple targets in the end zone that he just didn't come up with. I needed the touchdown, so I missed out on that. And then the Chiefs Jaguars, I missed out late, so I ended up losing more money. That's just been the story of my big buck season. But you and the Guru, happy birthday to the Guru, by the way. It's Spencer's birthday.
Yeah,
that's why he's not here. But you guys had good weekends.
Yeah, the only game that I was dead wrong on, it looks like 2 weeks in a row, I'm dead wrong on one. It cost me last week. I learned my lesson. I talked about it on Datitude. I think I talked about it here on the show. Is I didn't tie anything. I didn't tie all my bets into one particular game. I really wanted to pound San Francisco and tease them with everything, and I wanted to tease Kansas City with everything. And I'm like, I'm not going to do it. So just to be wrong on one game didn't hurt me nearly as much this week. I was right 3 out of 4, and that usually gets you something. It did this week.
You're watching Bayou Bets here on this Monday afternoon. Zach Ewing, Jim Derry with you. And just a few more things to talk about. We've been talking NFL Final Four. We're brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. If you'd like to get in on the action, you can go to lsuposter.com and you get a free LSU poster 3-poster set. You get to pick your posters, make a $10 bet for a new user, and those are yours for free. It's a $90 value. So check that out at lsuposter.com.
Before we move on, Zach, real quick, because I know we're going to move on from football, I do want to tell everybody who's still listening, had a great chat, wonderful conversation with Mike Detillier this morning on Datitude. If you haven't listened to it yet, go check it out. It is certainly worth listening to. Mike Detillier, he runs the gamut. We talk about Pete Carmichael staying on as OC. We talk about the Saints quarterback situation. We talk about Sean Payton, where he's going to go, an in-the-know guy. And we also talk about the NFL playoffs, and he knows he was as in the loop with LSU football when Burrow was here as anyone. So definitely worth listening to, and go check it out. Yeah,
absolutely. And you know what? Before we move on, we will say, you guys mentioned this on the podcast, but I think I'm with you. It looks like Sean Payton is not going anywhere this year. Still a possibility he's going to the Broncos or Cardinals or Panthers, but at this point, it's looking more and more like it's going to be another year.
The argument that Mike makes for Denver is a logical one. I just don't see it. I don't see Mickey Loomis getting what he needs to get to have Sean Payton go to Denver. That being said, he's not going to Arizona and he's not going to Carolina. Those two, I would be absolutely floored if he goes to either one of those places. I've said that for weeks now. It's not anything I've changed. I wouldn't be floored if he goes to Denver, but it would have to be the right situation. It's like we said, it's the only card that the Saints hold right now at all. Everything else, they're in the hole. They're so deep in the hole, they don't even know how to get out of it. And so he's not going to those other two places. I don't think he's going to Denver, although it wouldn't shock me if he goes to Denver. Denver would have to give up their number one this year, which is going to be San Francisco pick, which could be a 32, by the way.
It'd be between 29 and 32 now.
Between 29 and
between 28 and 31 because Miami doesn't have a pick.
That's right. There's no 32nd pick. Yeah. So you're talking about basically the same as an early second round pick. So for me, for him to go to Denver, they would have to not only get this year's number one, at the bare minimum, would have to get next year's number two. And I think next year's number one, really, because I don't think Mickey Loomis is going to give up that one card he's got. Now, throwing all that, so that leaves Houston, who I think we talked about it yesterday, Zach. Their numbers have come off the board, which means somebody knows that they're about to announce a coach. That's going to happen within the next day or two. I would be surprised if it doesn't.
D'Amico Ryans, I think.
It's exactly, and I don't think it's going to be Sean Payton. Therefore, I think there's now a 70 to 80% chance that Sean Payton does not coach in 2023, which cracks the door open just slightly. If the Saints suck this year, and there's an excellent chance they suck, that Sean Payton could come back here because, as Jeff Duncan said, he already wanted to come back here, and Mickey said, we're not firing DA after 1 year. But if they have another year like this one, and Sean Payton still wanted to come back, that's a real possibility then.
Yeah. What would you say if Denver offered their first round pick, which let's say it's number 30 or number 2, as well as they have 2 early third round picks, 68 and 69. If they give you all 3 of those and you're Mickey Loomis, what are you saying?
That's a tough one, man.
I think that's right in the ballpark of what it would take.
It's in the ballpark. I think it's fair. But again, do you want to give up that one card you hold? I don't know. I really don't know. Yeah. It's a tough one. It's one that Mickey would have to think about because the Saints are an absolute cap hell next year. It gets a little, and I mean just a little bit better in 24. So, look, I know Saints fans don't want to hear this, but I don't see this team being any good for the next 2 years at best. So you're looking at 2025, I think, the next time they have anything decent. By then, you're talking about Cam Jordan being gone, a new defensive line. Demario Davis is probably retiring by then. Marshawn Lattimore is 30. I mean, I don't know, man. This team's in a lot of trouble. They got to make some
trades. Denver does not have a first round pick next year. They've given that to Seattle as well. So it's not like you can get a first this year and a first next year. I mean, so not the best.
Why would you want to go there if you're Sean Payton either? They don't have. They're in a lot of trouble too.
I mean, I think Sean Payton strikes me, and you've followed him longer than I have. Yeah, but he strikes me as the kind of coach who would say, I can work with Russell Wilson. I'll fix whatever was wrong with him this year, and we've got a good defense, and we'll be good.
That's his ego talking. I mean, I don't think Russell Wilson is fixable, but I've said that for very many months now.
I mean, he looked immediately better once Nathaniel Hackett left. Now, whether he has another level beyond that, I don't know. But anyway,
better's not enough. But yeah,
we'll wrap things up real quick here with a little bit of basketball talk. We talked about those LSU posters. You can get the best team going at LSU right now is the women's basketball team. They're in action tonight in Tuscaloosa. Only 9-point favorites. The LSU got a stiff test last Thursday against Arkansas. Almost lost to them at home. Alabama's pretty good. I kind of like Lady Tigers to bounce back here. Just knowing the attitude of Kim Mulkey, she's going to say, y'all didn't have it last week. Let's go out and prove that we're all that. I'm the most knowledgeable guy in the world about Alabama women's basketball, but
I can't say enough to give an opinion on this. I did watch LSU women last week. Look, I was thoroughly impressed by the comeback against Arkansas, but hey, I'm not going to sit here and give you an opinion and tell someone this is what I think you should bet because I don't know enough to do that.
The LSU men, by the way, have lost 6 in a row.
I do know enough to tell you they're bad.
Yeah, they're done. And Alabama, by the way, didn't win the SEC in football this year. So they said, we'll just win it in men's basketball instead, which is kind of, man, they look terrific. They're just blowing the doors off of everybody. And the Pelicans are, to complete our little basketball trifecta here. The Pelicans.
Boy, they get hosed. Did you watch the end of that game, by the way? I know it was the same time as the Bills-Bengals game.
Yes, the 5 seconds.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Was that official should not – I'm sorry. And for people who don't know what we're talking about, the Pelicans played last night. They were yesterday afternoon, the same time as Bengals Bills. There was a moment toward the end of the game. First of all, the Pelicans had the lead most of the game and they blew it. But
they're only down 1 with the ball.
Or they
down 2? They're down 2.
Down 2. Down 2 with, I believe there were 19 seconds left at the time when this happened. And they call timeout at 14 seconds. They call timeout. They get the ball on the other side. First, I'm not sure why Dyson Daniels was inbounding the ball, but he was. The official is doing this with his hands, and he's doing 1, 2. He gets to 4, and as he goes to 5, Dyson Daniels clearly calls timeout before he gets to 5. And the official's like, nope, it's a 5. That official knew he was calling a 5-second call from the get-go, and he should not be officiating NBA games. It was an egregious call. It changed the game. Now, the Pelicans did get another chance, and CJ took a really, what I thought was poor three-point attempt.
Kind of a rush 3, yeah.
But I think that changed the game completely. So, but anyway, the Pelicans need to bounce back. They're coming home, and they got a tough schedule. We talked about this stretch of games here. It's not an easy one, and playing back-to-backs against the Nuggets and T-Wolves is no easy feat. They've got to win one of those games.
I mean, you got to win one of those, and then you got to beat the Wizards on Saturday just to sort of survive the stretch.
I agree.
And then hope by the end of the month you can have at least Ingram back, if not Zion and Ingram. Ingram still out. He did play 5-on-5 in practice.
Don't get me
so it
started.
Sounds like he's getting close. Now, I won't get you started, but I don't know. I mean, it is a mess right now. A couple other things going on in the sports world. Australian Open. I know you're a big fan, Jim. You're staying up till 2 in the morning to watch these matches.
I'm a Djokovic fan.
The USA, by the way, for the first time in a long time, is guaranteed a men's semifinalist in a Grand Slam because Tommy Paul, you see at the bottom, he's playing another American man. So one of those guys is going to make it. And then Korda is also favored to get to the semis. You could have 2 of the 4 men's semifinalists from the USA, and then Jessica Pegula on the women's side is favored in her quarterfinal matchup as well. So
how could you not like a guy named Tsitsipas?
Stefanos Tsitsipas. I did make some money. We finally broke our best bet streak with a Australian Open parlay last week.
That was brutal. We had those who don't follow our daily best bets, we were rolling the first 2 weeks of the year. I mean, rolling. We were on fire. We gave that money back in a hurry. I think we lost I think we lost 7 picks in a row or something along those lines. It was bad. We were all bad. It was all of us too.
Some of them were bad picks, and that happens. But some of them were just like anything that could go wrong was going wrong. I mean, you just couldn't finally hit that tennis parlay. And then, of course, the next day, I picked the Chiefs team total over 30.5 points, and Mahomes gets hurt, and they only get to 27. So it's like, they probably would get to 31 if Mahomes stays healthy, and that's the way it goes. And then lastly, just want to mention the PGA, kind of an unofficial season opener at Torrey Pines this week, and they've been playing for a couple of weeks, but this is the first tournament where everybody, minus Rory McIlroy, who's over in Dubai, everybody's going to be playing. Plus,
we are farmers.
50 for John Rahm.
Can I bet it?
He is 50.
John Rahm is now officially unbettable. They are making his odds to where you just can't bet on John Rahm. It is absurd. Do not bet on John Rahm. He is not going to win the Farmers Insurance Open. You heard it here first.
I have to say,
really,
Jim,
the other odds at the top aren't that great. Go ahead.
No, they're not. But I got to interject because when I did the slide, I used DraftKings because Caesars hadn't posted the odds yet, and I thought, well, I'm going to use DraftKings. FanDuel had him at plus 390, which is even worse. Jeez. Caesars just released their odds, and John Rahm is plus 350.
That's insane.
That for a golf, and those who don't bet golf.
That's an insane number.
Plus 350, you barely get on a Sunday morning for a leader. Sam Burns looked pretty good last week. El Rey, he was top 20.
Rahm was tied with 2 guys at one point on Saturday, and was minus 330.
And he won
with 2 guys,
but he won by 1 stroke. Like it wasn't like it was a blowout. And so in this tournament, you've got some heavy firepower. Xander Schauffele, Tony Finau, Justin Thomas, Colin Morikawa. I mean, even going down the board, I like Hideki Matsuyama at 35-1 myself.
I don't really love the way Hideki's playing right now, but at 35-1, sure. El Rey's the question about will Sam Burns get in gear? I think he will. I think he's going to.
He played fine. I mean, he was like 15th last week, so
yeah.
He wasn't bad.
Look, you can't count a lot on January golf. Okay, you just can't. I think Sam Burns is going to be just fine.
I do not believe he's playing this week. I don't think Sam Burns is in this field.
I'm fairly certain he's not. I kind of like Sung Jae at 22. Just early on, I have not gone through and done analysis on this tournament as of yet. I will start diving into golf as soon as the Super Bowl is over. But if of all those guys, there's really not a lot of value. But I might put a little bit on Sung Jae.
Not a tournament typically won by a long shot. So
No.
I would say don't go far below what we showed there. So
can't wait for
that's
Waste
our
Management.
show.
That's my favorite. That's the one that kicks
Super
it
Bowl
off.
weekend. Oh, and by the way, those of you betting on Torrey Pines, the tournament starts Wednesday this week. It goes Wednesday through Saturday. They take Conference Championship Sunday off. They don't do that, strangely enough, Super Bowl week, even though it's in Phoenix, which is where the Super Bowl is this year. So that will be insane. But
I won a lot of money on Super Bowl Sunday last year, and a big chunk of it was from golf. So let's just say Scotty was 40-1 going in that tournament. You never saw Scotty over, I think, 25-1 after that, and really no more than 15-1 after about, I'd say, early June.
Yeah. We'll see if we get something like that this year. I kind of like Max Homa off that list too. So that's our show for today. We got a Final Four in the NFL. We'll be back Thursday. Spencer the Guru will be with us, and we will we'll have our picks and lots to talk about, Jim.
We will. I'm going to start pouring over it tomorrow. So I usually take 2 days. I'm not sure if I need 2 days, but for 2 games. But I tell you, these are 2 tough games. So I may spend 2 days going through every trend and piece of analysis I can find. So we'll see.
All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. Hit subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. Get an alert on all of our shows. Spencer and I will be back tomorrow with the Fantasy Roundup, talking some player props for Conference Championship weekend. And Bayou Bets back at 4 o'clock on Thursday. Until then, thanks for being here.